episode 47 of Grace and Steel. I'm Kevin Steele.
And I'm Kevin Michael Grace.
So, the Democratic National Convention wrapped up after many fiery speeches and lots of pretty balloons. There were cheers, there were protests. There were white noise machines to drown out the Sanders supporters who learned via WikiLeaks that their system was rigged. There were a few important developments. The Democrats have embraced the neocons, and also, with some overlap, the conservatives have fully embraced the Democrats. Now, this might look like win and win for Clinton, except that it means, with the neocons, that the Dems have outed themselves as the perpetual war party, and by adopting the conservatives, they're saddling themselves with people who know how to lose and can make that priority number one. So we anticipate some difficulty for the Dems down the road with these peeps. At any rate, the mainstream media has presented the DNC as a tremendous victory for the party and for Hillary Clinton. Kevin, do you agree?
Well, it's a victory in the sense that the DNC stole the election for Hillary, which we know from WikiLeaks, and they managed to cow Bernie Sanders, who endorsed Hillary. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they let him ride on a private plane.
Ooh, what a
cheap date Bernie is. And they crushed the burnouts. Yeah. So it's a victory in that sense. Mm-hmm. In a larger sense, it's not, because Hillary remains as unelectable as she's ever been, and her weird, wild, crazy gurning at the convention just leads more people to believe that there's something wrong with her physically and mentally.
Yeah, I did see somebody remarking, might have been on Ricky Vaughn, that the way to beat Hillary is just to have her exposed more. In other words, more exposure that she gets, the less support she'll get. Do you think that's one of the faults that she's going to run into? I think the convention made it obvious.
She has a serious aesthetic problem. Mm-hmm. In that, as I say, she appears to be mad. I mean, you saw the video of what seemed like an epileptic fit she had a week ago.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that was rerun quite a few places.
Yes, and at the convention, there were these scenes of her carrying on like a 4-year-old with the faces that she was making. Mm-hmm. I mean, she has this problem where I suppose years ago people told her to smile, and she doesn't seem to understand there's a difference between smiling and appearing to be a lunatic.
Right.
The other thing is that this business with her tongue.
I did read something about this. Yeah, possibly cancerous.
Well, she obviously had a biopsy done on her tongue, that there is a large round hole in the middle of her tongue. Mm-hmm. Now, there are these claims that she's suffering from thyroid problems, possibly other conditions. She's put on all this weight, which she disguises with this long white Mao jacket, which has made her look like a Bond villain.
Or angelic, depending on whether you're a Clinton supporter or not.
Or, perhaps Ellen, maybe she's going for the Ellen DeGeneres.
I think so. I think that her people have watched her on that show, and they've had her on Ellen a few times now. So maybe she's played well there.
Well, Ellen is the lesbian that America loves. I think the difference is that Ellen DeGeneres seems to have an essentially sunny personality.
Right.
Which Hillary very much does not.
Well, that seems to be the way they're going to try to sell it for the next 100 days, because that's all I'm seeing in the press is that Hillary's got the positive outlook, and, Trump's selling a dark vision, and Hillary's doing the sunny ways thing of Justin Trudeau, which is, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the DNC had been paying close attention to Canada in this regard. The idea, they're selling optimism. We just heard this optimism versus the, quote, dark and depressing, unquote, Republican convention. But I wanted to talk about this idea of sacrifice, which was brought up by Khan Sr.,
right,
the angry Muslim who berated America to media cheers.
Lost his
neocon
son, yeah.
Cheers. This question of sacrifice, what you have sacrificed nothing. Well, let's look at Hillary Clinton in that regard. Hillary Clinton has been a public figure since 1979, when she became First Lady of Arkansas. Now, how is it possible that a woman who has supposedly been in public service for, 37 years, most of 37 years, since she was a young woman, how is it possible that such a woman is worth hundreds of millions of dollars?
Emphasis on the service. She made tremendous sacrifices for that money.
This
she sacrificed
inverts
her integrity.
This inverts the traditional idea of public service, which is that men and now women of accomplishments, they put aside their private business in order to serve the nation. Hillary is an example of a type in which there is, one hand washes the other, you could say. That there is no distinction in her mind between public service and getting rich. And Washington is full of such people. Given how little, in relative terms, being a senator or a member of the House of Representatives or governor pays, you would expect most of these people to be not particularly well off. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a very good example of that. He appears to have no money at all,
right,
despite being in Congress forever. But Washington is full of these people who have somehow become rich while serving the nation.
It's a rich nation.
It's a rich nation.
Bounty for all.
Yeah, it well rewards people like Hillary Clinton who know, as her husband did, where the real power is. You'll recall that the story goes that Bill Clinton was taken aside by Alan Greenspan, who said, you may have some crazy ideas about changing things, but I'm going to tell you how things really work in Washington. And apparently, Bill took this quite well. And then decided to devote his presidency to unleashing the banks on America and on the world, and also on Russia.
Yes, actually, that came up quite a bit post DNC. The idea, I think it was floated first, I saw it on Vox Day's site, that it was actually from Tacky Magazine, that the forces that had ruined Russia in its conversion to the capitalist markets are the same forces that are seeking to globalize America and ruin it. Basically, they're out to loot it as it sinks into second and third world status.
Well, it has been globalized and it has been looted. The question is whether the globalists will be allowed to destroy it.
Okay.
I joked a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't really much of a joke, that the neoliberals, of which Bill and Hillary are two members, would reduce the status of the non-elite in America to Foxconn workers if they thought they could get away with it. Suicide nets for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's what we're headed for under their positive outlook. I can't believe they're selling what they have as a positive outlook. But I guess, when you're dealing without any ideas, you have to go for these symbolic things like she's a woman and she's positive and nothing specific except we're going to.
She is a woman. But I'm reminded of this video that's floating around by this fellow. I apologize for not getting his name. The fellow who does these gotcha videos. And he pretended to be a Hillary supporter amongst the burnouts.
Right, yeah.
And it turns out that the burnouts are absolutely livid. That he says something like, but Hillary's the first woman president. She smashed that glass ceiling. And some furious woman responded, glass ceiling my ass. She stole the election.
Nothing witty, just flat out like that.
On the one hand, we are told that there are no essential differences between men and women. On the other hand, we're told that we should cheer because Hillary is a woman and she's the first nominee and they believe she's going to become the first president. But men and women are equal in every way, except it appears that women are better.
Yeah.
Although, as we found from the Obama State Department, they appear to be better at bloodthirstiness.
Yeah, this is something that she's going to have a hard time reconciling with her It Takes a Village. I mean, based on her speech, I could say that she's going to be, if elected, and I doubt if she will be the first woman president, but she will also be the first life coach president, because that's what it seems like. she was presenting us with, just all
Well,
positive.
after the convention, she started posting these. Well, I guess this began with the Republican convention and Black Lives Matter, where if you look at her Twitter feed, she appears to be a very well-medicated life coach, spouting these Oprah-isms as if they're somehow profound.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to walk in another man's shoes and to share those shoes, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe we should start sharing toothbrushes. And, well, there's the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and we know how inspirational that was.
Yeah. To me, it was like every shit-lib cliche from the last 25 years was packed into that speech. Yeah, it was delivered so woodenly as well. I mean, that was the thing that I found odd about it. I was quite surprised that other people did pick up on it. I was watching PBS. They just slammed her speech. I was really surprised because they'd been shilling for her for like 4 days.
Even David Brooks?
Well, Brooks, no. He didn't have a whole lot of positives to say because the other guy spoke first and said there was nothing in that speech that it was memorable at all. Usually there's a few takeaway lines, but there was nothing there. Now, he did cover it by saying, well, we've had, the two worst speeches in both conventions have been by the candidates. But, I mean, he said this following Hillary's speech.
This fashionable nihilism is well past its due date.
Right.
But with regard to Hillary's speech, you see the extent to which she's gone full neocon.
Well, I saw that in the build-up, actually.
To join with her neolibery.
Mm-hmm.
In that it was observed, well, at least by me, that there was a great change that came over the neocons in the 90s, and particularly after George Bush was elected. That the neocons, back when they were a respectable movement, they had an often incisive critique of American society and particularly its burgeoning decadence. Mm-hmm. But then it occurred to them that if America was going to go around the world regime changing every country they didn't like, then they couldn't also claim that America had serious problems, particularly moral problems, and thus America is great. America, love it or leave it. Mm-hmm. And, and we heard this from Professor Khan.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm more of an American than Donald Trump is.
And I have the Constitution in my
this
pocket.
Embrace of the propositional nation, that American is just, if you believe you're an American, you're an American. If some guy from Pakistan via the United Arab Emirates shows up in America, well, he's just as American as anyone else, probably more so because he believes in this great proposition. And the idea of this guy waving a copy of the Constitution about, he seems to have confused it perhaps with the Koran. The Constitution is not, in fact, a manual that covers every eventuality in life. And the big joke is that the Constitution has been gutted. The Constitution means whatever the Supreme Court says it means. And they have twisted it in these absurd ways. And that's why there is this ferocious battle, which has been going on for decades, over who gets appointed to the Supreme Court. If the Constitution were some sort of neutral document and not a political document, it wouldn't be essentially important who was on the Supreme Court. But everyone recognizes, Republicans, Democrats, left, right, centrists, that it is crucial because they make the rules. They don't interpret the rules. They make the rules.
Yeah, well, she did make mention of Supreme Court appointments. That was the one. Well, there were a couple of things that she mentioned in her speech that were somewhat, I would say, solid or policy related, and one of them was the appointments to the Supreme Court. So, they are recognizing that battle at least.
That jokester on Twitter, David Berg, I believe his name is, Iowa Hawk.
Oh yeah, right.
He said that the campaign to humanize Hillary is the most expensive public works project in American history.
Yeah. Well, I think it's part of it is going to be demonize Trump as well. So the idea is going to be keep the focus off of her. And, this, to a certain extent, Trump will actually probably assist them in that, he will keep the focus on him. However, his idea is to keep the focus on him and his policy of change. So, they're playing a dangerous game, I think.
you probably have seen all of these articles about, with the headline, "Why is Hillary disliked?" Or "Why are people suspicious of Hillary?" And I'm thinking, if you clowns don't know by now, you'll never know. And the media has also been pushing this line that Americans don't like Hillary or are suspicious of Hillary because they don't know Hillary. As I said, this woman has been a public figure since 1979. People under the age of 40 or even 50 in America cannot remember a time before Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, they don't know the real her, the grandmother. The grandmother who FaceTimes with her grandson. And, well, maybe that's actually where she's getting the 4-year-old Gaga talk from, or Gaga face from. She's doing this FaceTiming with her grandson, and her face is
I actually think that it's incipient senile dementia, and that is not a joke.
You have said that to me in private before. Yeah. What other evidence do you have of that other than the crazy face? She does have crazy face. Oh, well, wow.
You saw the cut that was made of her clearing her throat during her speech.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that.
She attempted to hide, use applause to hide.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that
no one who was healthy or who was all together would have the need to clear one's throat dozens of times during a 45-minute speech.
Well, that indicates illness. Doesn't indicate dementia.
Well, no, I mean, there's always the possibility that apparently, maybe it was excessively dry in the convention hall in Philadelphia, and the DNC geniuses had not accounted for this, but I discard that explanation.
Yeah, I think so as well.
The woman has not given a press conference in a year.
Right.
She doesn't seem to be much of an active campaigner.
Yeah, well,
but I don't believe
for that though. She was saying, "Well, I'm not so much on the public." Yeah, right. As I am on the service, right? It's the work that enthralls her. That's how they're trying to sell this shyness, which I don't think is shyness at all. I think it has to do with possibly covering an illness.
Nixon was shy. He was genuinely shy,
right,
and awkward with new people. I think the difference between him and Hillary is that Hillary just doesn't like people.
Yeah.
Because they have all these demands, and they expect that attention be paid to them. These human characteristics which Hiltron has difficulty appreciating.
Well, you find that often with people, the smartest person in the room types, and I think she's one of those. They try to sell it as not suffering fools gladly, but really it's just a disconnect between.
Well, I'm greatly irritated by the smartest person in the room. Obama, the smartest person in the room. In Canada, we had Pierre Trudeau. Oh, he was just so smart. He makes us all look like dummies. I'm thinking, there are several tests for intelligence, but one of them is insight. Has Hillary Clinton ever said anything in her life that is memorable?
Well, it takes a village, but I don't know if she actually made that up. That became kind of a cliche in the 90s. Everybody kind of made a joke of that.
It does take a village to raise a child. But Hillary turns this on its head. When she says village, she means government.
Yeah. And she means big government, world government.
Yes.
The opposite of a village.
The type of government that decides what the lunch menus are going to be for America's school children. Yeah,
well, it's an extension. Actually, it was a precursor to, you didn't build that by yourself, that Obama introduced us to, love big government because, we're all in this together and the government is an expression of us.
Well, no, it's a big sister, big nanny. And like Peter Mannion, I will say boo to nanny.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you kids like chicken fingers and tater tots, but here's some carrot sticks instead.
Yeah.
They're better for you.
It's part of this cognitive dissonance that we keep talking about. There's an article in the Canadian papers today about the support for our current government, Justin Trudeau's Liberals. And it's saying that, Canada's really on board with this Sunny Ways stuff, even though they acknowledge that they're facing these dark economic times, right? It's a complete disconnect.
Well, I'll just say about that article, which is just maddening. That if we'll provide a link to this, but if you want to find out the mindset of the Canadian elite. Read that article in Canadian press, and it will tell you pretty much all you need to know. Megan Leslie, a former NDP MP, said that Canadians were almost giddy that the long-form census had been returned. You have to be deranged to believe such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That Canadians don't pay any attention to the census except every 5 years. They get something in the mail which says, fill this out. And occasionally, as has happened to me, I'm one of the long-form census people, that they get, they call you and they send you reminders. And finally, a nice lady shows up at your door and enters your apartment and asks you questions for half an hour.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I can't imagine why Canadians would be giddy about that.
I'll just quickly explain what that was. The Conservatives took away the penalty for not filling in the long-form census. They basically said you won't go to jail if you don't fill it out. Well, the Liberals took this up, and so when they came into power, they brought back the punishment for not filling in the long-form census. And a bunch of deranged people on Twitter and in social media just acted as if this was the greatest thing that could ever happen. Because, it was reversing something that Stephen Harper had done. Even though, what Stephen Harper had done was completely sensible, they celebrated like it was just the greatest thing in the world, and it was.
Well, if I recall correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it was our old friend and your former boss Ezra Levant who led the campaign to make the long-form census non-mandatory.
Right. Yeah.
Have I got that right?
Well, I don't know whether I know he did lead part of it anyway. It seemed like a popular idea, right? Hey, we're not going to throw you in jail for not confessing.
I don't, I have to confess that I don't have strong feelings on it one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is a government intrusion. On the other hand, it's not that much of an intrusion.
Oh, but the way these people were celebrating after it was the penalty was brought back, you would have thought that, we were all being given checks, being cut checks from the government. That's how they were celebrating. It was completely ridiculous.
No, actually, it was worse than that. Mm-hmm. It was as if the century-long oppression of our people by the Tartars had ended.
Thank God for the long-form census punishments. They're back. Hooray! Well, anyways.
Well, the other thing, I just want to cut this short here with regard to Canada, and we'll get back to America, that the pollster who was interviewed in this article doesn't seem to understand that one of the reasons why Trudeau is so popular is, apart from the fact that this is a narrative which has been engineered by the polling profession and by the media, is that the Conservative Party doesn't have a leader. So effectively, there's no opposition to Trudeau in Parliament.
Also, I think part of it is what we had. I don't know if we've actually expressed this in the program, but we've talked about it quite a bit. You had talked about the Canadian press, the Canadian media, and in particular this National News Watch, it being a vehicle for the notion that in the rise of nationalism, Brexit, and Trump, the whole purpose of this page was to make sure that Canadians don't get any ideas. There's going to be no change here. That seems to be the purpose, and this article seems to fit in with that. So.
Yeah, we'll get back to that perhaps at the end of the show.
Or another
I wanted to
segment.
mention something that Bob Lefsetz, the entertainment lawyer who writes about music,
right.
He's an interesting guy to me. Whenever he writes about politics, I generally think he's an idiot. Much of the stuff he has to say about music is quite interesting. He's thought about this, and he has some good ideas. But he was not happy with the Democratic Convention. And one of the things that made him unhappy was all these celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
And he has appreciated that, apart from those people who are besotted with the Kardashians because they think that maybe they could become a Kardashian, and then they could just, swan around the world with their fat asses.
Yeah, I have a big ass too. I could be like
that. For doing nothing. Yeah. But he made the point that why do the Democrats believe that Americans see celebrities on stage and say, oh, well, yeah, I have to vote for the Democrats because the celebrities have never steered me wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if that phenomenon still works. I know that when Bill Clinton was elected, they had this big party at the White House that was, just jam-packed with celebrities. It was a big deal.
Well, you saw this in Britain when Tony Blair became prime minister. When he had the Gallagher brothers over at 10 Downing Street. And, this was this powerful union between the politicians and the celebrities.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why we are all so obsessed with celebrities is because a great many of us, perhaps a majority, actively loathe celebrities.
Yeah, there is a sense, I guess, amongst a segment of the population that they are wealthy beyond their just desserts, and they are popular beyond their talents.
Well, I don't want to denigrate the talents of, say, actors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's difficult, and not very many people can do it. But the typical opinion about actors among people is, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard me at parties, when I make those funny voices.
That's right, yeah. After a few.
How come this guy gets $10 million to make funny voices or to wear makeup?
Yeah, and all I get are these stern looks from my wife, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. It's time to go home, Bob, before you famously put the lampshade on your head.
Yeah.
Or decide that everyone wants to see you naked.
Yeah. Will Ferrell does that so well. Okay. Anyways.
Oh, no, Will Ferrell. Yeah. You mentioned Will Ferrell. I mean, that guy used to be funny.
Mm.
And then he decided that he was a serious political thinker. In the same way that Jon Stewart was occasionally funny, and he occasionally had some interesting things to say about politics. I think that he invented a new kind of technique where you don't really need to interview people. You can just look at clips, right? Everything these people believe in is on the public record. So let's look at what these people have said. Now, Stephen Colbert, geez, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to remember a time when this guy was funny. But this I'm an idiot conservative act of his, he drove that into the ground. And then when he got his network slot, well, that's not doing too well, so we're going to bring back the idiot conservative. And I thought, that Comedy Central did you a favor by claiming intellectual property rights in this character, but some people just will not learn.
True enough.
But, one last thing about celebrities. I mean, you've noticed how angry Colbert and Jon Stewart have become. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jon Stewart, with that beard that he's grown and the clothing that he wears, he looks like he spent the last year living in a van down by the river.
Well, I just want to say something about that regarding Jon Stewart and Will Ferrell. There seems to be a point where, public figures, that they seem to shift into this cult leader type persona. And that's where Stewart is right now. He thinks that he's the leader of a cult in his own mind. There's a self-importance there, I guess. It's not really cult.
Well, no, it is a cult because much of what he did on his show was not really comedy. Mm-hmm. Here's something that a bad man said. I'm going to repeat it in a funny voice and then make a funny face and go, huh?
Raise an eyebrow.
And this is the cue for the audience to start applauding madly and shrieking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in a sense, yeah, it is kind of a cult. I don't know. They're not asking them to drink poison Kool-Aid or follow them off a cliff yet.
Well, not yet.
No, yeah. Well, I guess with Clinton, asking them to vote for Clinton, there is a bit of the follow me off the cliff kind of thing, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, you see that the reaction of Colbert and Stewart to the rise of Donald Trump, they're almost at the point, and I'm going to use profanity here, where I expect them, on their show to start shaking their fist at the audience and the audience at home and say, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. I don't know why I waste my time with you people.
Well, they could get close to that. Yeah, they're getting close.
But you look at someone like Will Rogers, who was famous and popular in a way that Stewart and Colbert can only dream of. He had no illusions about his place in public life. Mm. His place was to make people laugh. And I think the reason why Colbert and Stewart are so angry is that it's finally dawned on them that they are paid and have become famous for making people laugh. And they've decided that they want to change society. Well, if you want to change society, generally you go into politics.
Well, we saw that with Franken, right? That's exactly what happened to him. I mean, he was marginally funny with his smiley guy.
Oh, I thought that Franken was often very funny on Saturday night.
I thought it was marginal. I kind of wore it out.
That Stuart Smalley character was quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was it.
Franken did go into politics, and he won a very suspicious election in Minnesota.
Yeah, but I mean, he's followed
very suspicious election.
He's followed the dream, is all I'm saying, right? You know, he's gone from comedian to comedian.
Well, and he lost his ability to be funny. Did you see that cringe-inducing bit with him and Sarah Silverman?
I saw the preamble. I saw his soliloquy prior to that. I didn't actually see the Sarah Silverman bit.
It's about 3 minutes where we've been told to drag this out, to pull this out because they're not ready yet. And I'm thinking, okay, here are two of the most famous comedians in America, and you've got 3 minutes, okay, in front of an auditorium and in front of a television audience of millions. Maybe you could make some jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah, like I had said, this is where you wanted Robin Williams because, you know, he would have filled up an hour invited to do something. Yeah, he would
have filled up an hour of doing his hilarious impression of Donald Trump, which would segue into his always hilarious bring the house down routine of the gay choreographer.
Mm-hmm. Well, he would have done Donald Duck and all kinds of things, you know. But I mean, the point being is that, you know, to fill up 3 minutes, a comedian, you know, needs to be funny, and he could do it on call. These two famous and well-paid people could not do it on call. I think that was the point you were trying to make, wasn't it?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, the other part is that they were spooked. Especially because, you know, Silverman identified herself so openly with as the other talk show host, Seth Meyers, said with regard to the burnouts. Now is the time for you to keep quiet. To which my joke was your grandfather a gag writer for Stalin?
Yeah, right. And the pun is on the word gag.
No, Silverman especially was spooked because the idea was, okay, burnouts, you lost. Now, let's not talk about how you lost because the Russians did it somehow. But Russians, apparently you're angry with me, and I'm not used to people being angry with me. I'm used to people saying, "Aw, isn't she just so cute?" Mm-hmm. You know, like she's some precocious 15-year-old.
Right, yeah.
Which is her whole act, by the way.
Yeah, it does wear out after.
Oh, did I just say that?
Baby Snooks? No, you didn't, Baby Snooks.
So, do we want to talk about the Khan family?
I think we do. I think we have to. That's what's burning up the papers right now. Burning up the monitors, I should say. Go ahead.
Well, apparently 14 Muslims killed in active service of the United States. Mm-hmm. The fellow J5 killer on Twitter pointed out that Muslims have killed, in the U.S. military, have killed more American soldiers than that.
Ah, yeah, this has actually got some traction now. I'm starting to see other people repeating this. Where did I see it? I can't recall. It might have been on Vox Day. You know, just to clarify again, I just want to make sure what you're saying is that Muslims in the American military have killed more soldiers than
more American soldiers
than Muslim Americans have died in service. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. Now the old American idea, you know, the rainbow division, say, is that, you know, you may be Protestant or Catholic or Italian or Irish or whatever, but then you become a soldier, and that's what you are. Mm-hmm. Part of what was so infuriating about Professor Khan's lecture was that he explicitly identified his son as a Muslim, as if there's some sort of Muslim brigade in the United States military.
Oh, the wind talkers.
And this idea that because his son died serving his country, that gives the father the right to tell everybody what to do. And this leads to the bigger problem that Americans, and certainly Canadians, are sick of immigrants telling us our business. Mm-hmm.
You had also made a point in private conversation leading up to this show that he had a point to make, but he had gone too far. Perhaps you can...
Oh, sure. If his point had been Muslims can be patriots too, viz. My son, well, you'd have to say, well played. Okay, because Muslims can be patriots too. I don't think anyone is disputing that, by the way.
Right. But that's how they try to play it. Yeah.
He decided to claim the mantle of patriotism, that I'm a patriot and Trump isn't. And by implication, everyone who supports Trump is not a patriot as well. Mm-hmm. And the Democrats and the media are so deluded. They think that angry Muslim man with thick foreign accent and wife with a headscarf ranting at America is somehow going to help Hillary. It isn't. It does the opposite.
Well, they're sure hammering it home. I think that, every columnist around the world sympathetic to the globalists is now, pointing out that this is the straw that broke the Trump's back, right?
Well, the two worst examples are Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post.
He's a moral monster.
Yes, and Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, who apparently just love Muslims to death. In fact, they do love Muslims to death because they are of the party that says we bomb them because we love them. Mm-hmm. These two have been associated with the death, the murder, I will say, of many, many thousands of Muslims for pointless reasons. And now they pose as Islam's greatest champions in America. They're absolutely shameless.
Mm-hmm. But there they are, and they are trying to maximize this guy. I noticed after hearing that speech, the commentators that I were listening to said, well, this is a major point. This was very powerful and blah, blah, blah. And I think this is why they're running with it, because, they really have nothing to go on with Hillary's speech. They have a point here, not a good point, but it is an emotional point, and that's what they're kind of relying on. And there wasn't really a whole lot of emotional notes hit in Hillary's speech, so they're going to hammer this. Will it last? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's going to last? Do you think
Well, I'm going to point out the obvious hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. When Bush was president, there was this woman who harried him for years. You might remember this. Mm. Her son had been a soldier and had died in pointless American foreign adventure. And she used this as a cudgel with which to beat Bush. Mm. And the reaction from the neocons, from the Jeffrey Goldbergs and the Jennifer Rubins of the world was, hey, lady, shut the hell up. Mm-hmm. Just because your son died doesn't give you the right to make American foreign policy.
Right. I think that,
of course, now they're saying exactly the opposite.
Yeah, they were making the same point about some mother of a Benghazi soldier that was hammering on Hillary. That seems to be the counter argument right now. Not from the Trump people, but from some of his supporters. The fact that Hillary told her to shut up.
The neocons argue that we don't go from particulars to general, except when we do.
Yeah. Except when it helps us or it gives us the advantage. But, that's human nature.
But all of the neocons are in the tank for Hillary. I'm looking at an article from Talking Points Memo, Josh Goldberg's Josh Marshall's internet site. Something strange happened on the last night of the Democratic National Convention. After the GOP nominee lambasted the Democrats on Twitter for displaying what he viewed as too few American flags, there was a sea of waving flags as far as the eye could see when Hillary Clinton became the first woman to accept a major party's nomination on Thursday. So this woman, Catherine Kruger, then quotes from a bunch of conservatives, true blue conservatives, movement conservatives, Ron Fournier. Well done, Donald Trump. You made Democrats a party of sunny patriotism and values. You sure Bill Clinton didn't ask you to run? Jonah Goldberg. Why this convention is better. It's about loving America. GOP convention was about loving Trump. If you didn't love Trump, it offered nada. John Podhoretz, Pod Jr.
Loving America. I just want to point out they didn't have any American flags. They had to go rip them off because they forgot to bring in American flags at the beginning of the convention. They didn't show up to the second.
Yeah, because the whole business with the political conventions always being a sea of red, white, and blue. They seem to have missed that memo.
No.
But Claude Jr. says, take about 5 paragraphs out of that Obama speech, and it could have been a Reagan speech. Trust me. I know.
Trust me. We can look it up,
Yeah, Greg Gutfeld, the alleged funny man from Fox.
Oh, yeah.
If Repubs had championed their principles with specifics rather than embrace autocracy, they wouldn't have yielded this turf to Dems. Eric Erickson, who apparently travels with protection everywhere.
You mean condoms?
Because he's so valuable.
Are you talking about condoms? No.
For Republicans who are not social conservatives, I have to imagine last night and tonight at the DNC are having an impact on them. Conservative Iowa radio host Steve Deese, whose neck threatens to swallow his head, said, so most of conservative media and the GOP spent the week rooting for Russia. Boo!
Boo, Russia!
And now the Democrats get to rally around the flag. Dreadful. Charlie Sykes, another true blue conservative talk show host. Snark aside, GOP needs to understand what is happening to them tonight. And then again from Sykes, do you know how old I am? Old enough to remember when speeches like this would have been given at GOP conventions, not Dem ones. Brutal. Rich Galen, press secretary for Dick Cheney. How can it be that I'm standing at my kitchen counter sobbing because of the messages being driven at the DNC? Where has the GOP gone?
Where was he? At his kitchen sink?
Well, I'll get to the sobbing.
Well, no, but where? I just run it by me again. It was at
his kitchen counter.
Oh, his counter. Okay. Not the same.
I guess what he was peeling potatoes or whatever, and then he burst into tears.
Oh yeah.
Okay, a conservative ops veteran, Matt Makowiak. The Democratic Convention has been an unmitigated disaster for the GOP. Very well produced, unifying, patriotic. Bravo. Amanda Carpenter, former spokeswoman and perhaps much else, for Senator Ted Cruz. I sure am hearing a lot more about God and faith at the DNC than the RNC. Conservative blogger AG Conservative. Still stunned. Feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Obama just defended America and conservative values from attacks by the Republican nominee. Commentary editor Noah Rothman. Republicans could have stopped all this. And Daily Caller writer Jamie Weinstein. Isn't he that Michelle Field's boyfriend?
That's the guy.
Isn't that his claim to fame?
That's the guy, yep.
Now an Immigrant Medal of Honor winner? If the goal is to reach independents and conservatives uneasy with Trump, well done, Democrats. Now, Josh Barrow of Forbes, the libertarian, he confessed that he was sobbing as well during the Democratic convention. And I'm wondering whether I'm wondering whether they were actually watching the Democratic convention. Maybe they were watching Steel Magnolias or Beaches. Grown men boasting about sobbing from watching something on TV.
Yeah.
But the big issue.
That reminds me. I just have to break in here.
Sorry. I have to interrupt. Okay. The takeaway here is that one man's trash, and that man is Trump's, is another fool's treasure. These people, all of the ones I've named, were a millstone around the neck of the GOP. Mm-hmm. And Trump had a problem. We talked about this on a previous podcast, the problem of the trimmers. Hey, you remember when I said that you were worse than Hitler? Well, yeah, let's forget all about that and be friends. I support you now, Trump, right? Mm-hmm. This leads to a problem because it makes both sides look insincere. And Trump has engineered this situation or perhaps lucked into it. And, you know, it's often the same thing because great leaders make their own luck. That the manager has a problem with employees that he doesn't like. That he wants to get rid of them, but you can't fire people without cause, without paying them off. What you're hoping that they will do is say, I quit. And then you say, thank you, because you saved me all this trouble and money. And the neocon, the true conservative wing, the useless idiots of the GOP have departed en masse, which is just an enormous victory for Trump. Because he can say in all sincerity that what I am offering is radically different from what this party has offered in the past.
I don't even want to go back and tell my story now. I'll save it for another time. No, that is very true. And I think that victory, of course, has yet to be realized, or I should say the points. Right now, the Dems are basking in the glory of having received these people unto their bosom. That is the neocons and all these never Trumpers. And a lot of them are in the media. You just cited a lot of them right there. It's not going to work out for them in the long run. I think by September, the message will come home to most Americans. You know, the reason these people are shilling for Hillary is because, you know, they're part of the problem, not part of the solution. So,
well, the Never Trumpers changed their message. That Never Trump version 1 was, oh my God, he's going to lose worse than Goldwater and drag the party down with him. Mm-hmm. And then version 2 was, oh my God, he could win.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, I thought you were against Trump because he was going to be bad for the party.
Because he would lose.
Yeah, but now it turns out they just hated everything that he stands for.
Yeah, it takes a little while for that to sink in, and I have a feeling that is right now in the first blush after the convention, we're seeing, like I say, the Democrats realizing their victory of taking these people into their arms. However, I don't think it's going to last.
Well, Trump also lucked into something else, or displayed his, what do the Twitter trolls call it, his 11th level sorcery. This business about the DNC leaks coming from Russia. Well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I mean, who cares? Mm-hmm. That he made a joke about the Russians should turn over the deleted Hillary emails to the FBI.
Treason.
Yeah, treason. Oh, this is a national security issue. But wait a minute. The argument made by Hillary and her supporters were these deleted emails were not a national security issue. So which is it?
Do you notice how quickly that ended?
Well,
that basically shut it down in a day.
Well, you know, why do we hate Putin? Well, I can tell you why we hate Putin. Because he took a wrecked Russia and he restored patriotism and stability and pride. That's why he's hated, because, you know, countries are not allowed to do that. Mm-hmm.
Also, the Russians hate Americans.
Well, Goldberg and Rubin and others are fit to burst because it looks like the plan to engineer World War III with Russia isn't going to happen.
Yes.
And my advice to those people is, yeah, I know you're upset. I fully understand. Why don't you just smash a bunch of plates? Mm-hmm. Maybe that'll make you feel better.
Yeah.
If you have to wreck stuff, wreck your own stuff.
Yeah, not other people's lives.
But no, clearly this message that the biggest problem that America has is that we're not in enough wars. That Trump destroyed that. I know this word destroyed. I apologize for using that. It doesn't mean anything anymore, but, you know, Trump is destroyed by angry Muslim dad. But when Trump called out Jeb Bush over Iraq and 9/11, that was just the end of that. That, yeah, this Trump fellow was saying that maybe we don't need to be at war with everybody forever.
Right.
Yeah, I think I could get behind that.
Well, I think that these people might be experiencing something of a come down, because I think it's now that they've set their sails in this new direction, I think they're going to be surprised at how little influence they actually have. That might be a bit of a come down for your Jennifer Rubins and your John Podhorances.
Well, they're clearly in denial now because they think that, well, you know, newspaper columnists often suffer delusions of grandeur.
Sure, yeah. Having been one, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is their goal primarily to amuse because newspaper columnists do not set policy. They might influence policy occasionally, but these people, these neocon pundits, seriously believe that there's some sort of force which must be reckoned with. And as I will point out for the umpteenth time, the neoconservatives have never had a political base. not like the anti-abortionists, not like the NRA and other groups. The neocons have always been about 500 think tank drones and media pundits. And if you ignore them, then they'll go away.
Well, they've gone to the Democrats right now, and the Democrats are reveling in it. They seem to think or sense an opportunity here, but you can see the unease in the base or in the audience of the DNC. You know, there were times where she was talking like a real neocon, or that general got up there. Was it Kelly? Was it General Kelly? Yeah, maybe.
No, not Kelly.
Yeah, it was Jill Kelly. That was the woman that she was involved with. It was Allen. That's it, John Allen. He got up there and he was talking hellfire and Old Glory, and really spitting it out. And you could see a lot of unease in the people on the floor following this.
Well, their chance of no more war.
Yeah, they can be from
the floor.
Right, yeah. Did you see his speech?
I read accounts.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Trump has attacked him personally, as Trump does. And you could argue this is unfair. On the other hand, America was in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and the idea was that we'll unleash this firepower of the greatest military machine the world has ever seen, coupled with lessons in feminism and such like, and this will turn these countries into Arab facsimiles of America. Well, it didn't work out that way, did it?
Am I supposed to answer? Okay. No, it didn't.
No, I think that people can never be reminded often enough.
I see. Okay.
That Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That Iraq and Afghanistan were disasters. I mean, Canada has its own shameful role in Afghanistan, where we spent a fortune to no account there.
And now we're in Iraq.
We did kill a bunch of Muslims with whom we had no quarrel.
And we're in Iraq now.
Yeah.
And Latvia, let me remind you, 286 soldiers in Latvia supporting World War III. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll turn the tide.
Sorry, go ahead.
That'll turn the tide.
Oh, having too much fun today. Okay, convention, last word. Let's get final thoughts on this convention. Where is it going to go from here? I mean, they're coming out. You always get a post-convention bounce. Trump got one.
I don't know that there's a post-convention bounce, because the talk during the convention was as much about Trump as it was about the Democrats.
Oh, well, they made the same complaint about the RNC, which was, the only thing they were unified around was attacking Hillary. Well, okay.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Well, I don't know. What's wrong with talking about attacking Donald Trump? It was a political convention, and that's your enemy, right? So,
well, Trump has made a calculation, which is that the more people hear of my message, the greater my support will be. And the more people see Hillary Clinton and are exposed to her message, the more my support will be, and me being Trump again. Because Hillary is the worst candidate in 100+ years.
Okay, what will you base that on, other than the fact that she is a terrible speaker, and she's ill, and she looks Botoxed, to the eyeballs?
Corpulent, moribund, possibly brain damaged. She's a grifter. She's grasping. She has been associated with disaster repeatedly.
Okay.
And her program for America is more disaster. That this place is, it's just so great, that America is so great that, we can afford more disaster.
But she's doing well at the polls. I mean, for a candidate that's so terrible, why is it that she's, running neck and neck with Trump?
Well, maybe we should ask Reuters this.
Okay.
This question of the algorithm that pollsters have used to come up with their results is receiving a great deal of scrutiny now.
Right. This is the bounce that they decided to award to her after they rejigged their formula. Is that what you're talking about?
And I believe that Reuters has actually apologized now for its methodology.
For the change in methodology, or the reversal of the methodology?
Well, for leaving out the option of supports neither.
Oh, they apologized for that. Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. So there you go. Social media does have an effect because they were all over that. I don't think there were any columns that were criticizing it anywhere, were they? I think it was all just reaction from Twitter and Facebook and places like that. So,
well, no, I mean the news media, the mainstream media, it no longer reports the news, and it no longer pretends to report the news. I mean the fact that a joke by Trump leads to serious accusations of treason, and of, oh yeah, let's get the FBI investigating him because he made a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're referring to, of course, the Russians should release her 30,000 emails if they have them. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Well, yeah, but of course, the other thing is that it is now known that the Democratic National Committee stole the nominating procedure for Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
That they screwed Bernie Sanders. Now, pundits like to talk about, the American idea of fairness. Well, to the extent that Americans pay attention to the WikiLeaks and to the shafting of Bernie, they're not going to come out of this with a very favorable opinion of Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a woman who was supposed to win going away in 2008 and unaccountably lost to a neophyte, no-account senator from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2016, okay, it's her turn again. This time we really mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it appears that without all the cheating from the DNC, Bernie Sanders would have beaten her.
Is there nothing this woman can't turn to shit? Because that's what she's done. Her latest, her nomination, she's turned to shit with the revelation of these emails. I mean, that's what this person does. It's breathtaking.
Well, no, I mean, she is associated with no success ever.
Well, this is success in a way. I mean, she won. She
well,
fairly,
it's success. But, I thought that, Walter Mondale in the summer of 1984 probably considered himself to be a success. And then when November rolled around, suddenly he was in the history books as one of America's biggest losers and has remained there.
Right.
And, it's not like Barry Goldwater was one of America's biggest political losers. Mm-hmm. But Goldwater developed a cult. That Goldwater, to many people, Goldwater was the man who spoke the truth at a time when it wasn't popular. I don't believe that Hillary is going to get such a posthumous bounce.
Okay. Well, we have the debates to look forward to, and that's being scrutinized right now. You were telling me that there are these backroom rumors that she wants to cancel them. I know that Trump criticized the dates of them. I think he made a mistake there in assuming that they had been set recently. They actually were set last year. Somebody had pulled out a Politico article that stated they were set last September.
Well, last September, they would have known when the NFL scheduled its games.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you think it is set across the from NFL games to diminish their impact?
Oh, I don't. It's quite possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite possible.
Right.
But what Trump has done is he has put in people's minds the notions that the establishment does not want the American people to hear my message.
Right.
So that's why they're running it against NFL games.
Oh, okay. I thought it was they didn't want anybody to see Hillary have a stroke.
Well, yeah. I mean, there is that. Yeah, I have joked for some time that, the robot talk show host on British TV,
okay,
that Hillary's, head might come off and white fluid might start erupting from valves during the debate.
Well, you see, this I think was a problem going into the DNC is, our expectations for Hillary were way too low. We were expecting her to have a stroke, and when she didn't have a stroke, we were like, well, I guess she did okay because she didn't die on stage.
Yeah, you say this to me.
I said it to you.
But she did have that weird epileptic or other episode. And then, as I say, there was all this, pretty balloons. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, yeah.
That is just not good.
Yeah.
That is just not good at all. I thought Trump was supposed to be the undignified one.
She looked like a cackling witch. And yeah, I played the man card. Deal me in.
Now, I think as we wrap this up, I just want to talk briefly about Paul Wells, who is Canada's foremost political reporter and commentator. Now with the Toronto Star, he wrote a column on the 30th in which he seriously discussed what Canada could do to prevent Trump becoming president of the United States. And then he went on to discuss the possibility, the very real possibility as he sees it, of Trump winning the election. And then whether Canada should intervene to help get him impeached.
Well, the Americans, they had the United Fruit Company acting as a front company for the CIA. Don't we have the United Beaver Hat Company acting as a front for our scoops? Couldn't we use them?
Well, the reason elephant mouse, we've heard all this talk, right? I mean, we pay great attention to the United States because we have to.
Right.
But this idea that somehow what the pundits of Canada and Justin Trudeau, who, by the way, is attending the Pride Parade in Vancouver, and you're saying, wait a minute, didn't he already attend the Pride Parade? No, that was the one in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm informed by our reliable media that there will be 500,000 people in Vancouver for the Pride Parade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Trudeau is going to, squirt water at naked women with pasties on their nipples, as he has done in the past. I'm not making this up.
Yes, but don't worry. We really don't have a way of jigging American politics. I think you wanted to point that out. Paul Wells was talking quite irrationally, I think.
Well, what I said to him was, what exactly are we going to threaten the Americans with? Justin Trudeau's hot tears?
His water gun, yeah. Shooting at pasties on nipples.
Poor Paul Wells had something of a meltdown because he is Mr. Innovation. He is innovation man. Mm-hmm. R&D will save the world. He doesn't seem to understand how Twitter works. Apparently, there's all these people on Twitter, I mean, who would have known this, who don't use their real names. Did you know about that, Kevin?
Yes, he actually tweeted that out. That's what you have to...
Yes, he tweeted, hard to understand why these guys don't use their real names, to which my response is, you live in Canada and you say that? Now who's naive, Kay? And then he responded to an angry person on Twitter, there's half a chapter on U.S. Ambassador's 2006 election speech in my first book. And what is it with the fake names? Like he's doing some hack Jack Carter routine from the 1960s. These kids with their rock and their roll and the Beatle haircuts and So then someone tweeted to him, you attack and subvert our elections, we will send the drones. To which he responded, I'll tell you what, shove your laptop right up your ass.
Good one, Paul.
And I thought, who still uses laptops? And then I couldn't resist baiting him by saying that a man who can be baited on Twitter is not a man we can trust.
With the codes.
Yes, with the codes. That he's just... And then and then Paul Wells discovered that, and again, I don't know whether you knew about this, but many tweets have spelling and grammatical errors. Mm-hmm. Shocking. I know. I mean, how can you take seriously any opinion with spelling errors and grammatical mistakes? But this was his gotcha moment. That, I mean, we have this phenomenon in the United States of the pundit class having a collective nervous breakdown because of Trump's success. But in Canada, amazingly, the pundit breakdown is even crazier. I mean, the sobbing and the renting of garments. I suspect a lot of these people on November 8th, the night of November 8th, and the morning of November 9th of this year, they're going to be cutting themselves. And maybe they can post these pictures on Twitter.
I think the message here is clear evidence, trolls, that you're having an effect. Keep it up. Happy trolling.
Yeah, with, about Paul Wells, I can say with some justification, we broke his brain.
Well done, trolls. Well done. I think with that, we're going to call an end to episode 47 of Grace and Steel. I'm Kevin Steele.
And I'm Kevin Michael Grace.